I'd like to begin by thanking the Team Canada here at our mission for hosting over the course of this weekend, today, into this week, into Monday actually, of next week, when I think our Foreign Minister will be addressing the General Assembly. Le nouveau gouvernement du Canada a pour mission de renforcer et diversifier nos partenariats, ainsi que de diriger les efforts mondiaux visant à reconstruire le système international fondé sur les règles et basé sur les principes. Cette mission est menée par des personnes dévouées et travaillantes, présentes dans cette salle et dans d'autres salles, et dans nos ambassades partout dans le monde. You know, for decades, Canada's foreign policy has relied on a certain number of premises. First, a rules-based multilateral trading system. Secondly, collective security anchored by NATO. Third, our enviable geography, which has shielded us from distant conflicts while connecting us to the world's largest and most dynamic economy directly to the south. And we also had the expectation that the world would converge over time towards free markets, open societies, and democratic values. But now the world is undergoing a series of fundamental shifts. New technologies have brought distant threats to our door. Power has become multipolar. Authoritarianism is resurgent, and consensus within many democracies, not all, but many democracies, has fractured. These developments are also reducing the effectiveness of global institutions on which middle powers like Canada have long relied. And it's happening fast. This isn't a transition, it's a rupture. Yet, even with that background, after my time here in New York during United Nations High-Level Week, I'm even more certain than ever that in this new era, Canada won't just endure this shift, we will prosper. Nous avons bâti une nouvelle ère, et dans cette ère, le Canada prospérera. And why? Well, first, we have what the world wants. Canada is an energy superpower in both clean and conventional energy. We're amongst the top 5 producers of the world's most important critical minerals. We're a leading developer of artificial intelligence, and we have the world's best talent in quantum and computer science. The second reason is we embody the values to which much, not all, but much of the world aspires. Canada has always been and always will be committed to fundamental human rights, to human dignity, to individual freedom and sustainability. We're a pluralistic society that works. By our very nature, we practice daily collaboration and partnership. Enfin, le Canada a la clarté d'objectifs et la détermination nécessaires pour être à la hauteur de ce moment. Le nouveau gouvernement du Canada répond à ce changement profond avec détermination et avec toute la force requise. We're building our strength at home, diversifying partnerships abroad, and building a new web of connections to pursue our interests and defend those values. And that's what we've been focused on this week in New York. To build a stronger economy, alongside meeting global leaders, I've met with business leaders from around the world to discuss investment in Canada as we accelerate major projects, as we move towards doubling the pace of home building and scaling up our defense spending in ways that build our economy. I underscored Canada's strong and stable business environment, our highly skilled workforce, and our leadership in those emerging areas of AI, quantum, clean energy, clean technology, advanced manufacturing, critical minerals, and digital infrastructure. I outlined our government's new industrial strategy to transform the Canadian economy so it can be resilient to global shocks and help all Canadians to get ahead. I highlighted the recent launch of the Major Projects Office, which will fast-track projects in Canada's national interest. To diversify our trade and security relationships, I met with leaders from Asia, Africa, Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean, seeking new export markets and new opportunities for Canadians. Tomorrow, the President of Indonesia will visit Ottawa. Our work together will expand Canada's commercial markets in Asia and empower Canadian workers with new opportunities. And on Thursdays, I will host the Irish Taoiseach as we continue to deepen our commercial, cultural, and security ties with the EU and its member states. And to build a new resilient web of global connections, we're working with the UN and other partners to find collective solutions to the most pressing challenges the world faces today, from Ukraine to the Middle East. This week, Canada provided over $200 million in new funding to improve global nutrition, address climate change, and reduce poverty. This includes new initiatives with partners in Africa, South America, the Middle East, and the Caribbean. And as part of a collective, coordinated international effort, Canada recognized the State of Palestine. We offered our partnership in building the promise of a peaceful future for both the State of Palestine and the State of Israel. To that end, Canada will also contribute $47 million in new funding to Gaza and West Bank to strengthen judicial systems, governance structures, and democratization efforts. This brings Canada's total contributions and assistance to Gaza and the West Bank to over $400 million, including humanitarian supports, health and recovery efforts, and development aid. In parallel, we continue to pursue, with partners, justice and lasting peace in Ukraine. As co-chair with President Zelensky of the International Coalition for the Return of Ukrainian Children, Canada convened leaders this morning to spotlight the tragedy of Ukrainian children illegally abducted by Russia and to catalyze a stronger international reaction. And finally, as part of Canada's ongoing efforts to stabilize the security situation in Haiti, we're deploying $60 million in new funding. This funding will reinforce the multinational security support mission in Haiti, expand maritime security in the Caribbean, and impede gun and drug trafficking. Ces efforts contribueront à bâtir un monde plus sûr et plus sécuritaire. Ils renforceront nos institutions, comme les Nations Unies, grâce à une coopération accrue. Lorsqu'il y a de la confiance, il y a du potentiel de collaboration. Et avec la collaboration viennent de nouvelles possibilités pour les travailleurs, les entreprises et les industries canadiennes. I'd like to conclude by saying a few words about Bob Rae. Bob is Canada's outgoing ambassador to the United Nations. Bob Rae has represented Canada at the federal, provincial, and now international level for almost 5 decades. I'm sorry, Bob, to bring up that, but almost 5 decades of stellar survey. Bob Rae is a stalwart. He's a steady hand because he is always guided by principle. He is so often Canada's voice of conscience and conviction. Recently, Bob and I corresponded on the many daunting challenges facing Canada, the United Nations, and the world. And he reminded me of Leonard Cohen's words in his song Anthem. I quote, "Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's where the light gets in." In every moment where there's a crack, where there's a rupture, there is possibility. And it's our responsibility, it's our opportunity as Canada in this moment to find it. And after my visit to the United Nations General Assembly, I can assure Canadians that there is light, there are many possibilities. Look, we know that nostalgia is not a strategy. We can't rebuild the world as it was, but we can build something better. The work we're doing here at the UN is part of the transformation of our economy and our approach to global engagement. Canada is a determined and ambitious nation that is rising to the challenge of these age. It's helping to build a world where prosperity is shared, where security is collective, and where peace is lasting. In this new era, our partners will no longer rely on the strength of our values, but also the value of our strength. And with that, I look forward to taking your questions.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now begin with the question portion of this press conference. We'll do one question per journalist. First question.
Hi, Laura Dillon Kane, Bloomberg News. Given that we aligned our China tariff policy with the U.S. and we remain in delicate trade talks with the Trump administration, what realistically can we offer the Chinese government in exchange for some relief on canola tariffs? Could it involve allowing into Canada some greater Chinese investment or products related to the areas you mentioned yesterday, like climate or energy? And further, does your meeting with the Chinese Premier today potentially lay the groundwork for an eventual meeting with Xi Jinping?
Well, thanks for the question. As I'm sure you know, but just to underscore, China is Canada's second largest trading partner. It has been for a long time. And there is a very broad range of